And on the outset, Lascian Corla, I just want to note that the Taoiseach, Minister for Foreign Affairs, isn't here this morning, and that the Minister for Agriculture is taking the debate. And I think it's unfortunate that the Taoiseach is not only unwilling to act, he is also seemingly unwilling to listen. On RTE on Sunday, he was asked about this motion, and he started off by saying, Israel has to be held to account. So let's count the ways that this government has held Israel to account for its slaughter in Gaza. For 3 months, the Social Democrats have asked this government to lobby for trade sanctions against Israel at EU level. The EU is Israel's biggest trading partner, so trade sanctions would hurt. Ireland could advocate for this at EU level, but that has been repeatedly ruled out. Because according to the Taoiseach, if you go too far on a limb, you lose influence. Not only is there no prospect of trade sanctions, the government, to the best of my knowledge, never even raised the issue in Brussels. Withdrawing the diplomatic status of the Israeli ambassador is another way Israel could have been held to account. The Social Democrats put down a motion in the Dáil in November asking the government to do that. We didn't take that step lightly. But at that stage, more than 10,000 Palestinians had been slaughtered in just a month, and senior officials in the Israeli government were talking about wiping Gaza off the face of the earth. So we felt it was appropriate to send a strong signal to Israel that Ireland opposes its actions. The government refused to do that also. The Social Democrats then asked the government to make a referral to the International Criminal Court and investigate whether members of Israeli government and military have committed war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity in Gaza. You refused to do that. The government has even refused to act when it comes to your own legislative agenda, something that is entirely within your own control. We've repeatedly asked you to enact the Occupied Territories Bill and the Illegal Israeli Settlement Divestment Bill as a matter of urgency. Doing that would penalise economic activity in the occupied territories. It wouldn't hurt as much as the EU trade sanctions, but it would at least be something. Some small way of holding Israel to account and leading by example. But the government also refused to do that. So when the government says Israel has to be held to account, who exactly do they think is going to do that? Because it's not looking like it's going to be the Irish government. Every time this government has been asked to follow its words with actions and hold Israel to account, it has refused. Do you believe that holding Israel to account is somebody else's responsibility, Minister? The death toll in Gaza is now at more than 25,000, and this government is still taking a wait-and-see approach. We heard on Monday night, after 10 p.m, that the government intended scrapping its own Dáil business yesterday afternoon and debating its own motion on Gaza. Great, I thought. Surely, given the dramatic fashion in which this motion is being rushed to the Dáil, it will contain something concrete. This will be the motion that finally tells us how this government intends to hold Israel to account. I thought it would contain some new commitment, some tangible support for the Palestinian people, but it didn't. It was just a restatement of everything we've heard from government before. And the question of supporting South Africa's case under the Genocide Convention at the International Court of Justice has been firmly kicked to touch. We are told you will strongly consider an intervention in the South African case, but only after the preliminary ruling has been made and after South Africa files its substantive case. That, as I'm sure you know, Minister, could take months. Meanwhile, an average of 250 Palestinians are being killed every single day. We do not need to wait for preliminary judgments and subsequent assessments to indicate our support. I'm sure the government knows that. Other countries certainly are not waiting for that to indicate their opposition. Germany, the US and the UK have dismissed South Africa's case out of hand. Germany have already indicated that they will be intervening at the International Court of Justice in support of Israel. They don't need to wait for the preliminary ruling, so why does this government? It's a question that the Taoiseach needs to answer. When Russia invaded Ukraine and later attacked civilian infrastructure, the Taoiseach was quick to label their actions genocide. On Twitter, he wrote that Russia's horrific attack on a railway station was, quote, further evidence of the barbaric nature of Russia's war on Ukraine. This is genocide and those responsible must be held to account. The Russians, of course, were rightly held to account for their brutal invasion of Ukraine. To name just some of the serious consequences that flowed from that invasion. Trade sanctions were almost immediately put in place across the Western world, travel visas were cancelled and bank accounts were frozen. Israel has faced none of those consequences. Quite the opposite. We have the Americans rushing to provide them with an infinite supply of bombs to drop on Palestinian civilians. And Germany claiming their attacks are proportionate and in line with international humanitarian law. Even the language that this government uses about it is different. I've searched and can't find any reference to the Taoiseach describing the slaughter in Gaza as genocide, like he did about Ukraine. This is despite the enormous death toll, the tens of thousands who have been maimed, the collapse of the healthcare system, the breakout of famine, and the fact that the UN is now warning Gaza has been rendered uninhabitable. If this isn't a blatant double standard, can you, Minister, in your reply, explain the discrepancy? Clearly, genocide isn't a word the government want to use in relation to Israel, at least not until the preliminary ruling from the ICJ gives it some cover. Last week, the Taoiseach explained why this might be the case. He said that it was uncomfortable for him to accuse Israel of genocide given the Holocaust that the Jewish people suffered. But that entirely misses the point of the Genocide Convention. It was adopted in the UN in 1948 as a result of the Holocaust to ensure that never again would any person face an atrocity like that suffered by the Jewish people. It should also be pointed out that our motion does not ask the government to make a determination of genocide. It asks you to simply live up to your obligations under the Genocide Convention, which Ireland belatedly signed up to in 1976. Namely, to recognise the risk that a genocide is being committed in Gaza and act to stop it. Article 1 of the Convention obliges Ireland to do this, not just punish genocide, but act to prevent it. The International Court of Justice has previously explained what this obligation entails. A state's obligation to prevent genocide and the corresponding duty to act arise at the instant that the state learns of, or should normally have learned of, the existence of a serious risk that genocide will be committed. I don't think anyone in government can claim to be blind to the risk of genocide in Gaza. Or does the government require more death, more suffering, more disease, more starvation, or more devastation before it acts? Having spoken of holding Israel to account, it's time that this government did so. I would ask that the government supports this motion, which has one singular call, that the government take its responsibilities under the Genocide Convention seriously and support Africa in its efforts to stop a genocide in Gaza by intervening in the case at the ICJ as a matter of urgency and at the earliest possible opportunity. Minister, this is an opportunity for accountability, an opportunity to try to prevent genocide. It's not just the Social Democrats who think you should seize this opportunity. The government has a legal and a moral obligation to act, and to act now.